Osio, the Dawadoan, the Lanage, the Ann Carroll Tune Studi K1, Chi Chalagi, Aya, Oklahoma. Hi, I am DeLanna Studi. I'm a proud citizen of the Cherokee Nation from Oklahoma, which is where my license plate is from. Um, and I'm currently the co-artistic director at Native Voices at the Autry. And you are attending Autry Office Hours. And so to give you a little information about who I am and what I do is I actually became the co-artistic director of the Autry 2 weeks before we went to quarantine. So it's been quite the transition. Onboarding has been exciting, but it's been fun. I've been doing it, and I'm very happy about what's happening. I'm doing well in the quarantine. We're getting a lot of work done. I know a lot of people, we had to close our show early, which was Jason Grazel's Lying with Badgers. We had to close that a week early. But it will probably have a live after here, which is wonderful. Some background information about me. I'm from Oklahoma. My father is what you would call a old speaker of Cherokee, which means his first language is Cherokee. My mother's German Irish. And so I grew up between two worlds. In fact, my name, DeLanna, means golden, and Estude means gate. So my father actually named me to be a bridge for my people, which is hilarious. He has a sense of humor. If you ever met my father, you would understand. And I am an actor. I didn't go to school for acting. I went to school for engineering. I had a tool company up until 5 years ago. I'm also an advocate, and I'm currently the chair of SAG-AFTRA, the National Native Americans Committee. So I've dedicated basically my entire career to making sure our people get, and by our people I mean the Native community, gets fair representation, and that we approach it with cultural sensitivity and cultural awareness. So I'm sorry, I'm talking as I'm reading as we go along. Sorry about that. Anyway, so what else? Yes. So we're moving forward. We're actually at Native Voices. Yes, we can't have a theater like we usually do because of what's happening in the quarantine, but we are still developing plays. In fact, we're going to still do our playwrights retreat this summer. We are going to be showcasing and developing 3 plays, and hopefully when this is over, we'll come together and we can present that to you in public. But we are still moving forward, which is wonderful. We're trying to find ways to keep our actors supported, keep art going, create content. I know it's a very challenging time for a lot of people. We're very lucky that the Autry is still functioning and up and capable of helping to make sure we get these opportunities taken care of. I see more people joining. Hi, welcome. OCO. I'm trying to, yes. Someone asked if we have a timeline. Right now, we're taking it day by day. We are scheduled. We have technically closed all of our public events up until June, and so we're doing it by month basis. And so we'll see what happens. We are in the process of figuring out timelines, right? So we have an ideal world. We'll be able to present these plays for you, but we also have to take into consideration what's happening right now, which means we're going to virtually develop the plays, and then hopefully whenever we get back up and running and people feel comfortable coming back to the theater in large groups, then we can actually present them for you. So right now, the timeline, just like everything else, is very fluid, and I'm actually kind of enjoying that. It gives us a chance to dedicate more time to the plays because we're going to be doing them individually. We're going to, instead of, if you're familiar with our playwrights retreat, we would do 3 plays at a time. We would actually roll them out. You would see these plays. We would do them all in a week's time. We'd do a first read with the total ensemble, and then we would break out into our little groups and we would work on those plays, develop them for a week, and then we'd present them to the audience at the end of the week, and then we'd go to La Jolla. So the great thing about what's happening now is now we have more time to spend on individual playwrights and to really work the text and make sure that the story is being told and that the characters are developed, which is very exciting. So we're going to start off with Randy Reinhold's Under a Big Sky, and then we're going to move on to Vera Bedard's, and then we're going to go to another play, Antigone. Sorry. I'm trying to read, so my apologies. 1 second, let me catch up on this. Perfect. Thank you. So, I don't know if you're following along on the comments, but I'm trying to. So we're able to develop the plays and actually do distance dramaturgy, which is wonderful. And of course, we'll have actors in a Zoom meeting doing the readings. They won't be shared publicly, but eventually they will. But that gives us more time to develop the plays and make sure that we're creating content, which is exciting. So we're still moving forward. We don't really know when we're going to be back in the space, but we're being positive, and so we'll see what happens. Okay. Sorry. I'm reading and talking at the same time, which is never a good mix. Thank you. And so do you have any questions about the work, or do you just, I could give you more information about, I could tell you terrible stories about my life and how I got to be an actor and how I'm here. And the work that we do, I mean, honestly, I'm very blessed and lucky. I'm very grateful to be able to do the work that I do and to be able to work with people that I work with, especially with Autry, who have gone above and beyond to make sure we have a platform. Hi, welcome. I see more people joining in. So, are you? Oh, someone asked if I was a women's traditional dancer or another type. I honestly have not danced since the 3rd grade, and I used to do fancy stuff. So I wasn't very good, which is why I stopped dancing. I still go to ceremony and to powwows, but I probably should get back into it, but I'm really a terrible dancer. Yes, it's very hard. Hi, welcome. Sorry, I'm just so, I love technology. I love the way this is working, and I really enjoy that we are creating community over this virtual space, which is very exciting. Oh, apparently we have someone on the call that, let's see if I can go back and look at that, who gave a talk about their book, Black Indian. Is that, yeah, Shonda Buchanan? Hi, Shonda. So, okay, someone wants to know more about my path to becoming the artistic director. Okay, so I started out making tools. I actually had a more traditional line of work. I was a bingo caller for the Cherokee Nation Bingo Outpost. You're welcome. And that's how I put myself through college. I went to school for engineering. I wanted to be an architect. I honestly, if you take it back a little bit further, I still do have severe social anxiety. I'm an introvert, which shocks a lot of people considering that I'm an actor, but my father made me take acting courses because that helped me learn to cope with my social anxiety and actually be able to have conversations with people. And so it was through my father encouraging me to be a speaker for our people. Just so you know, I'm Cherokee from Oklahoma. Our people are matrilineal, which means women always had power. And so I grew up in a house without gender roles, and work was work. And my father always wanted me to be a leader. And so he forced me to take acting classes when I was a freshman in high school. And so I enjoyed it. Honestly, it's how I learned to be, if that makes any sense at all. And thank you. And I went to school for architecture and for engineering, but because that was the practical thing to do. I ended up leaving school and coming to Los Angeles because I had a professor that said I needed to go to LA. And as a woman, you want to get to LA before you're 40. It's sad, but that was the thinking. As you know, women are doing great things right now. And so I came out to LA to be a film TV actor because I can't sing, I can't dance, so I couldn't do musicals. And of course, what happens is, you can never plan your path. I actually started doing more work as a theater actress. And yes, my dad is a good person, and I hope he's on this call. He said he was supposed to zoom in. I came out to LA, I started auditioning for Native roles, Native women roles, and if you know anything about Native pieces, there aren't a lot of roles for women, and we're usually exotified or victimized. And I grew very frustrated with that. And so I started working for SAG as the chair of the National Native Americans Committee to find ways to deal with that. I realized I could keep complaining about the problem, or I could do something about it. And so being my father's daughter, I wrote a play. That, so my father and I retraced my family's footsteps along the Trail of Tears. And we walked from Cherokee, North Carolina to Tahlequah, Oklahoma. We did drive some of it because we didn't want it to be a reenactment. You're welcome. I have a very dark sense of humor, so I apologize. But it was very important for my father and I to retrace our footsteps. And so I spent 6 weeks retracing the northern route of the Trail of Tears with my dad, and then I wrote a play about that experience. And so I'm technically a published playwright. I'm a produced playwright. My show is actually still traveling. If everything goes well, it'll be at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival next season. And so we'll see what happens. But it was for me, that was, if you were to ask what was my greatest achievement so far, it was doing that, walking the Trail of Tears with my dad and collecting the stories and learning about where we came from and our history, and also being able to experience that with my father. Like I said, my father is an old speaker, and so that was the one time I actually got to see him be his authentic, real self. His first language is Cherokee, and when we were on the trail, he was able to speak Cherokee with other people and have conversations and just be himself. And that's the first time I've seen him that way. Usually whenever he speaks to me, he speaks in English. He has to do a code switch. And I take that for granted. And to be able to see him come alive like that and be who he really is, it was life-changing, to be honest. And so that's when I decided I am better at practicing. We have a word in Cherokee, it's called Gadugi, and Gadugi is the coming together of people to celebrate, promote, and support each other. And I realized at that time that I need to be an instrument for Gadugi. I need to create that space where people can come together, celebrate, and support each other. And honestly, it's all about community building and lifting each other up and amplifying each other's voices. And so the best way I can do that is in just what I'm doing right now as the co-artistic director and also as the chair of SAG-AFTRA's National Native Americans Committee. We're taught to think 7 generations behind and 7 generations ahead. And how do we make this better? How do we... Oh, I'm sorry, one second. Okay. Yeah, Shonda, drop me a direct message after this, and we'll talk some more. That's awesome. Thank you. And so I've always been, my father calls me the champion of the underdog, and I've always gotten in trouble for being a little outspoken. And it's not uncommon for me to be the only woman in the room, and to be the only Native in the room. So I realized that I can't keep waiting for people to speak on my behalf. I need to find my own voice and speak out. And so that's how I became the co-artistic director, if that makes any sense at all. I'm better at amplifying other voices. I love a good story. I love to give people opportunities and chances. And the truth is, no one ever came to my school. I went to a small school in Oklahoma that had, my graduating class had 77 people, I think. It was very tiny. But no one ever came to my school to say that there was a creative career option, right? No one came to my school and said that my culture was valid. And so it's very important to me that I can provide that space for other Native people. And so, to be honest, Native Voices is where I got my start. I moved out to Los Angeles. I didn't know a single person. I was fresh from Oklahoma. That's another long story, but the truth is, the very first place I went was Native Voices. Native Voices at the Autry was my home, away from home. My father always said, if you are a Native person and you travel to anywhere that's not your home, you should find other Native people, because when you do, you're going to find family. And that's what happened with me. So Native Voices is how I developed my career. I started off as an assistant director to Randy Reinholz, who is the artistic director right now, for a staged reading called Darlin back in 2000, a long time ago. And I slowly made my way up. I went from being an assistant director to being an actor. Hi, Jason. And then to creating my own work. I've been lucky. I have to admit that my career is not, it's not the traditional path. It's not how most people get started, but I find that if something's meant to be, then things fall into place. And so that's how I base my career. My career is based on relationships and communities and God duty. And so everything I do is in that spirit. Oh, I see I have a question. 1 second. Maybe. What am I looking forward to in my new role? That's actually a very interesting question. Before all this started, I was going to do the traditional route, right? We're going to be doing a spring production. We're going to be doing our fall retreat. We're going to be doing our new plays that we're rolling out in November, our short play festival. And of course, now all that's just, we'll see what happens. And so, crazy enough, I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is, how do we adapt to these times? How do we take this opportunity and make something new? A lot of Native plays are written according to the Western canon, and that's not usually the way we tell stories. And so this is a great opportunity for us for Native people, and I think for all people, just to figure out, how do we tell stories? Why do we tell them? And why do we stick to these old norms? Now don't get worried. We're still going to do plays. Okay. So, but it's time to really get rid of the old ways and figure out something new. And that's exciting and challenging and a bit scary, because, one of the things we have to to think about is whenever we do get to reopen, will people want to come to the theater? Will they feel safe? And how do we make them feel safe? And how do we give them an opportunity to escape the quarantine and listen to a good story and connect with people? And so that might be a bit challenging, especially since a lot of people probably won't be wanting to do large gatherings once we reopen. So how do we make that happen? And so that's what my team, I have a very good team, by the way. I am supported by so many wonderful people at the Autry, and I would be lost without them. That's what we're trying to figure out right now. And so, so for me, that's the one thing I'm looking forward to, is how do we create art and share art and tell stories and build community when we are all basically stuck in our houses. And so I hope it's not the answer I would have given had COVID not happened, but it's the answer I'm giving now. And you never miss a crisis. And the great thing about this is it's giving us a chance to reflect and renew and to move forward and creating in like creative new ways. And that's exciting for me. So there's another question. Who are some key players in my field and whose work do I admire? Well, as a playwright, one of my favorite playwrights is Mary Catherine Nagel. If you don't know her, you should look her up. She's a Cherokee playwright. She does fantastic work. Let's take that back. She's an attorney that specializes in tribal law who happens to be a playwright. So she's a little, I don't know, she's an underachiever. I'm teasing. She's fantastic because she takes legal stories, especially tribal sovereignty and the issues that are affecting our communities, and she interweaves them with modern day stories. And it brings awareness to the issues that we face, but at the same time, it also is a call to action. And they're entertaining. And so if you have a chance to check out Mary Catherine, please do so. She does a lot of work for the Violence Against Women Act. She does a lot of work about tribal sovereignty and also climate change. So if you get a chance to see any of her work, check it out. So she's one of my favorite playwrights. Acting wise, today we had an ensemble meeting. So if you don't know, we have a Native Voices ensemble comprised of wonderful Native actors. And so today I got to watch 4 very talented people deliver monologues, and I was transported and I was moved, and I really want you to see those 4. So I know Jason Grazel's on the call. Rob Mesa was one of them, Sulan and Janine. So Sulan Cooper and Janine Washington. So hopefully you'll get to see them on stage soon. But I'm always inspired by people who are making content and telling a story and being open and vulnerable. I know it's really hard right now. A lot of people don't want to do that because it's a scary time, but the truth is we need that openness, we need that vulnerability now more than ever. And so I'm always pleasantly surprised by the work that our ensemble turns out, and they inspire me every day. And so I'm very lucky that I get to work with a bunch of talented, creative people. Let's see, there was another question. Let me go back over there. So sorry, one second. Are you thinking about, or in what ways are you thinking about sharing the work you are doing with Native Voices while under? There was more to it. There we go. One second. My apologies, everyone. Okay. For some reason, I'm not getting the complete question. Okay, so in what ways do I want to share my work with Native Voices? Right now, I think for the next 5 years or so, I'm going to be just focused on being an artistic director and not writing any pieces or acting any pieces. I don't think that would be, unless of course I need to, but I really don't think that's in the best interest of the company. Like I said, I like to amplify voices, and we have so many talented people in our ensemble. So I'm going to be hopefully shaping those and guiding those, and we'll see what happens. My work will still continue. I'll still do outside work outside of the Autry. But it's very important to me to focus on the other people. And like I said, we have such a talented group of actors, directors, and playwrights. They need their chance to shine. So I'm going to give them a chance to shine. I will share my work. I'm really bizarre. I don't really have a hard time talking about what I do, and I think it's a cultural thing. Where the Cherokee, we have the warrior's dance, which means that you have to put money down in order to tell about the good things you've done. And so I have a hard time doing self-promotion, if that makes any sense. And I'm perfectly fine with that. So, but anyway, so yes, so I will be, oh, it's so funny. It's like, I can't believe I'm getting all flustered over that question. But yeah, I will be sharing some work with Native Voices. And it won't just be my work. We're going to be probably talking about creating scenes. We're probably going to be doing some out-of-the-box thinking very soon. So I'm going to be calling on our ensemble and our playwrights to do some writing just to make it happen. And I might contribute to that, but I prefer to be more behind the scenes. If that, yeah, that's right. That's where I am right now. Okay. Someone just asked if I ever see the ghost of Gene Autry at the museum. I've only been there in my full position. I've been at the Autry for the past 20 years, but I've only started my position 2 weeks before this went down, so I have not had an opportunity to see Gene Autry's ghost. Are there rumors that the ghost of Gene Autry is there? Because that would make me very happy. But of course, I've also, while I was there after hours. And so never saw him. I kind of feel like I missed something, but maybe I'll see him when I get back. Someone just asked, one song you would put on your pandemic playlist. I have a song that I wake up to every morning. It's my alarm clock, and it's called Where Is My Mind? And it's by the Pixies. And that's how I wake up every morning. And that's my number one, that's my go-to song, is Where Is My Mind? Because it also reminds me of where my mind is and what I should be thinking about. But at the same time, it's funny and it's empowering and it gives me charge for the day. So that's the one song I would have on my playlist. Oh, apparently there are rumors that Gene Autry and others, there are ghosts at the Autry. That's interesting. So, well, there you go. Maybe Britt can do something with the Autry after hours and ghosties. Oh, and by the way, in case you're looking for things to do, we do have LA Poets in Place, which happens every Friday night at 6 o'clock. And so, oh, I'm glad you love the Pixies. Thank you. So tune in. It's with Dryland. It's amazing. I've heard so many beautiful things. It makes you really resonate. April is Poetry Month, as you know. And so we might extend, we'll see what happens, but we have one more coming up on Friday. And so I strongly recommend you check out Poets in Place at the Autry. You can go to the website and find out more information about how you can get involved in that. Are there any other questions? Okay, perfect. So yeah. Now, how many of you have gone to the Autry to see a Native Voices production? Oh, I have a question. What is the best way to get more information about exhibiting at the Autry? It depends on what you like. Why don't you DM me after this and I'll find out more information for you. I don't really know if I have the answers to that. I'm so sorry. I do mostly the theater side. And someone just asked, thank you. I'm pretty sure that's David Burton. Once the museum is open again, can you imagine doing theater in the galleries? Yes. That's actually something that we are talking about right now, is how do we, especially with what's going on and the fact that the theater we might be able to go public, hopefully soon. We'll see what happens. But the safety of people being in a confined situation in a theater with other people, and trying to maintain social distancing, it's a very challenging thing to think about, but we think we might be able to do some site-specific work that would move through the galleries. Autry did do something like this in the past called Tales of the Old West that I was fortunate enough to be an actor in, and it did travel through the galleries, and it was very well received. And the great thing about it is, as an audience member, you're kind of free to move around, so that way they could practice self-care. If you felt uncomfortable, if we were moving through the galleries telling you a story and you needed to leave, you could leave. It's not distracting. Whereas if people in the audience at a theater decide to get up in the middle of a production and leave, it's very distracting. So we're trying to find ways to work with the exhibits that we have at the Autry, and also create a site-specific work that will tour through the galleries. And so we would limit the amount of people that would come in, obviously. So it'd be a smaller production. It would also be a smaller cast. But that's something that that's an idea we're tossing around right now. We're hoping to settle on something, but we have, like I said, we have so many different little contingency plans. We are hoping that we're going to be able to have a full production in March. In the event that we can't, we're going to find creative ways to make sure that our artists are getting seen and heard and paid. And that might be one way we do it, is by doing a show that tours the galleries. Oh, I have another question. 1 second. Any thoughts on things like sharing online, like Zoom table reads? That's a very tricky question. We would like to do it. That's because of what's happening right now. We don't know whose jurisdiction it is. I feel like that's always a Native question: is whose jurisdiction is it? But the truth is, we don't know if Zoom table reads fall under SAG-AFTRA or under Actors Equity. We are doing Zoom table reads privately, and we're sticking to the equity rules, which is wonderful. So our actors do get paid and we do get the work. But to share it online, we have to figure out if it's through SAG or AFTRA and make sure that our artists are compensated the way they should be. Oh, hi, Elena. It's good to see you. Hi, Julian. Lightland Rubin. Hi. So one of my best friends and her children just logged on, so it's good to see them. Someone wants to know what Zodiac sign I am. I am a Gemini, in case you haven't figured that out. I'm a very, very, I fit all the traits of a Gemini, sadly and happily. So yeah, I'm a Gemini. What are the joys and challenges unique to a theater company embedded in a museum? What are the joys and challenges? Honestly, the joy is that we have such an amazing support team at the Autry. they champion us in all ways. They make sure that we are funded and that our actors, playwrights, dramaturgs, everyone that's on the stage and behind the stage make a living wage, which is quite impressive for a theater in Los Angeles, to be honest. And that's, I have to say that's the joy. They've been here for over 20 years, Native Voices at the Autry, and I don't see us going, we're going to keep moving forward. We're not going to disappear in the next 10 years or so, which is wonderful. It's become like a staple. And like I said, it's family. And so that's the joy. I mean, the challenges of working in a museum is, what would those challenges be? Well, anytime you work with an outside community, you may not, I haven't encountered this yet, thank God, but you may not be on the same page creatively. And so, I don't really know. Like I said, I've only been there for 2 weeks before this happened, and then I'm working from home for the past 6. So I haven't really encountered too many challenges yet. And to be honest, everyone at the Autry is very supportive, and we are trying to find solutions to move forward. And every meeting I've had, I have a lot of Zoom meetings, as most of you probably do. I always leave feeling invigorated and inspired. And there's so many possibilities. And like I said, I work with some really amazing people, and just getting on the phone call with them and brainstorming about what we can do and how can we reach community and what stories can we share and who can we highlight. I think that's probably my biggest joy is that. So sorry I don't have any challenges, but like I said, I was there for 2 weeks before this happened. So Orlando. I'm looking. Oh, okay. So Orlando, why don't you send me why don't you direct message me? You can follow me as DeLanna Studi at Instagram. But it's just my name, DeLanna Studi. Send me that information and I will see what I can do for you. I know that a lot of the like a lot of the arts festivals are canceling. They were supposed to happen this summer, and all these beautiful art shows are not going to be able to do it. But we're doing virtual things, so we'll see what happens. But we'll see what we can do for you, Orlando. Okay? Send me the information. And keep up the work. We'd like to see your work. Is your work online? Can we find it on Instagram? Good. Okay. You're welcome, Orlando. Okay, we can find work online. Perfect. Yes, and thank you. You can also DM at the Autry for questions. Oh, Mel Morgan, Melanie, I love you. Teach us a word in Cherokee. So I will teach you a word in Cherokee. If you want to say hi, if you're from Eastern Band, you say Shio. If you want to say hi and you're from one of the Oklahoma tribes, which is either Cherokee Nation or the United Kituah Band, it's Osio. That's a nice little trick if you don't know anything about Cherokee, is that Eastern Band, their S's are SH's, and Oklahoma Cherokee, their S's are your standard S. So Osio or Shio, depending on what region you're in. I think, gosh, one of my favorite words in Cherokee is Gagegui, which basically is I love you, but we don't really have a word for I love you because that's an action. So basically, gagegui is it's you are pleasing to me, and so that's one of my favorites. I have so Osio. If you want to if you want to introduce yourself in Cherokee, it's Osio da dawa do and then you would say your name. So I hope that's helpful. And we don't really have a word for goodbye or I'm sorry. If you want to say thank you, you would say wado. That's Oklahoma. But if you are in North Carolina at the Eastern Band, you would say shki. And shki means that's it. So I love how they're like, and we're done. Shki. But we say wado. So there's some exciting things on the horizon for Native Voices. It's sad that Randy and Jean are retiring. But at the same time, they will always be with us and they're going to be in Meredith State, which is wonderful. So we will have their guidance and hopefully them working at a distance. You are pleasing to me too. I love you, Mel Morgan. So there's going to be, I mean, it's a unique transition. This is not how I thought my transition would happen, to be honest. And so coming into this position 2 weeks before we went into lockdown mode, it's been challenging, but at the same time, it's causing us to really think outside the box and to understand what is of value to us and to the Autry and to Native Voices. And how do we share that? And so that's what we're working on. So I'm excited about the future. I know that sounds really silly to say right now, but I am very excited about what will come out of this. I think this is a time for contemplation and healing, and I think it's the much needed pause that so many of us needed to take and weren't going to take. So I'm trying to stay positive in light of the circumstances. So just so you know, Mel Morgan is calling in from New York. So I was fortunate enough to work with her on a play called Gloria and Life, which was a story about Gloria Steinem. So I'm happy that she was able to join us. And I don't know if there's any other New Yorkers on here, but you're in our thoughts and prayers. We know it's been very difficult out there. So we're sending you all of our love, especially you, Mel. Okay. What is one thing you'd like to accomplish with Native Voices? Native Voices is the only Native American equity house, which means we're a unionized company, which means our actors get paid union wages, which is wonderful. If there's one thing I can accomplish with Native Voices is that we won't be the only one. That's my goal, is to find ways to empower other theater companies. So we're not the only Native theater company. There's so many talented people out there, so many different wonderful theaters, and so many amazing Indigenous artists that aren't being seen. So how do we empower them to tell their stories? And so I'm looking to do more community work. I'm looking to actually get out into Indian country and to find that talent and to develop that talent and to share that talent. And so it goes back to the story I shared about no one came to my school. I want to be that person that goes to schools and empowers people to share their voices and share their stories. And so that's what I'm hoping to do more with Native Voices. Of course, we also want, another thing is a lot of plays only get produced at Native Voices and then they don't really go anywhere else. So how do we create more opportunities that our plays get produced outside of Native Voices? How do we bridge that gap? How do we continue this longevity of our playwrights? And so that's something else I want to pursue. And that might be co-productions, that might be co-productions, doing a lot of outreach, and of course finding ways to produce more shows. Like I said, ideally we won't be the only one. Tell us about your earrings. They are stunning. They remind me of the Pomo earrings on our collection. Okay, so these earrings, I'm going to probably not say them right. These are, I'll take them off and show them to you. Can you see them? They're dentalium, which is a shell. And back in the day, these were status. This showed your status by how many you had. It showed that you earned the shells, and so they are. To me, they're just, I don't know, I just love them. And it also reminds me of my power. And yeah, so it's not uncommon for, if you're around Native people and you walk down the street and people see earrings like this, you're like, oh, you are a fancy Indian. And that's the big joke. It's like, oh, someone's being fancy. But they're for status. And I think that's probably my favorite item I have in my jewelry collection. I actually got these at the Institute of American Indian Arts Museum in Santa Fe. So they're made by a student. I do love supporting students, obviously, and also art. So I'm very happy that I was able to get these. Tell us about who you played in Gloria. Okay, so when I did Gloria, the play, which was about the story of Gloria Steinem, I was very, very fortunate. Sorry, there's some hot rods outside. I was very fortunate to be able to play Chief Wilma Mankiller of the Cherokee Nation. And if you don't know who this person is, please look her up. She was the first female to be democratically elected as a chief of a sovereign nation that is federally recognized in the United States. And it just so happens she's my cousin. And so I grew up with Wilma, and I grew up with stories about Wilma. In fact, I met Gloria at a stomp dance years ago. Only reason she stood out was because she had her little blonde streaks. And she was probably the whitest person at the stomp dance. But I grew up with stories of, I found out about Gloria Steinem through Wilma Mankiller. And so to be able to go to New York and play not only just the chief of my nation, but my cousin, that was a dream come true. I mean, you can't get luckier than that. And so that was a very beautiful thing. And one of my favorite things about the play, which I'll share with you, is I got to use my language. I got to speak Cherokee on stage in New York, which was exciting. And in fact, my father, I don't know if he's on here, but my father went missing in action for 24 hours, which was kind of scary because we needed a word. There was a phrase in the play that was those who die in childbirth. And so we would say it differently now, but we needed to find out what was said pre-contact. And so my father went to the archives with my cousin Dora, and and they found the pre-contact phrase for that. So the phrase I say in the play was actually coined around the 1700s, which is incredible. So we were able to do the Cherokee that fit the time period. And so it was able to be reflected in the play, which is exciting. I'm a big dork, you'll find that out. I like to do research. I love history. It's probably why I wrote my play about the Trail of Tears and walking with my father, is just for the history of it. But I love the use of language, and anytime I get to speak my language, I get to practice my sovereignty. And so it's very important to me to speak it as much as I can, and to be able to have that platform in New York, and to work with some of the most amazing women in theater, and to be able to share Wilma's story and the language. You can't get better than that. That was incredible. So I know we have like a few more minutes left. Are there any other questions? Well, in case you don't already, you should be following the Autry. We will keep you updated on what's happening. We do have some activities going on. We also have the office hours, as you know. But Friday is LA Poets and Plays with Dryland. So if you want to hear some beautiful words and just sit silently and contemplate and also have a good laugh. Go to Poets and Plays. And yeah, Native Voices, we're going to have some content for you. I'm very excited that we're developing 3 new plays this summer, and we're hoping to be able to share one of them with you in March. And in the event that we don't have a theater space or people don't want to gather in large numbers, we are coming up with a contingency plan to make sure that we can still share our stories. And so it's exciting. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. And don't forget to reach out if you need anything. Wash your hands, get some rest, hydrate. But thank you for taking time out of your day to be with me. That means a lot. I appreciate that. So we Cherokee, we don't have a word for goodbye. We actually say we'll see you later. And so I just want to say that, we'll see you again. So take care of yourselves. Thank you. Bye.